Hello guys and welcome to Coding Orbit. In this video I will show you how to implement local database in your Flutter application. So in this app we can click on this add button and then we can insert a new node, for example node 4, and enter some details here and click save. Now it will be saved in the local database and it will be shown here, and even if you click on the node you will have the ability to update it, some details, blah blah blah. I don't know, edit. Okay, it will be updated. And even if you close the app, for example if we now close the app and then enter it, we will have the same result since it's saved in the local database, and when the app run we are extracting all the data inside the database and showing it here. Now before we get started, if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss our content. Now let's get started. Alright, to get started I created a demo project and I removed all the functionality. I just kept the UI. For example, the plus button would still work. We can enter a title here and we can enter some details here. However, once saved it will do nothing, it will just pop out. So now to get started, the first thing you have to do, you have to add sqfLite in your spec.yaml and make sure to have it as the latest dependency out there. Now after that, what we will do, we will add a model. Inside the models directory we have 4 directories right now. We have screens, we have services, we have widgets, and we have model. Now for services and widgets they are empty. However, screen, we have the 2 screens that you saw in the emulator from a while. Now what we will do, we'll create a new file and we will call it node model. And then for the model we only need, first let's create a class, let's call it node. And for the node we only just need int, or let's make it final int id with final string title and final string description, and that's it. We can have it const node, and then we can have it, all of them are required. This dot description title required, this dot description. However, the id is not required, so I will just make it nullable and have semicolon here. Now since it's a small model, I'm not gonna use external libraries to generate from JSON or to JSON. I will create them myself. So let's create the from JSON. Let's say factory node dot from JSON, which will take map string dynamic, and we will call it JSON, and this would return a node, so we will type node. Now for the ID we will have it as JSON and ID. For the title the same, and for the description it's also the same, and that from JSON. Now to JSON we can also create it ourselves. We can say map string dynamic and we can call it to JSON. It wouldn't take anything because we already have whatever we want. Now in here what we will return first ID, and we would say ID, and then we would say title, and it would have the title, and then we will say description, and it will take the description, and that's it for this node model. Alright, now after we created the model, it's time to create the database helper. Now let's go to the services, and inside here let's have a new Dart file, and let's call it database underscore helper. And here we will create a class and we will call it database helper. And after that we can say static const int, and we have to specify the version of the database, and let's say it's 1, and let's specify a name as well for the database. So let's say db name, and here since it's string let's say node.db or nodes. Okay, now after that the first method we have to create a method that creates the database, and in case of calling that method, it returns this database for us. So we'll say static future, and it will return a database actually. And as you see, we imported this package sqfLite here, and let's call it get db. It doesn't take anything and it's async. However, what it will return, an open database, and we have to specify the path. Now to get the path, we have to say join, and inside here we have to say await get database path, and then we have to specify the database name. We're not done yet, we have to import the join. However, it doesn't appear, so let's import it ourselves. Let's say import path, and here it is, path /path.dart. And we're also not done. We have to have some methods inside here. Here we can have the onCreate, onOpen, all of these methods, but right now I will just have the onCreate, and the onCreate is a builder that has a DB and the version. So here what we can say, let's just remove this. Okay, here what we can have, first let's make this async, and let's say await db.query or db.execute, and we have to execute executable SQL. So I will just paste it. It's just SQL create table note id integer primary key, title text not null, description text not null. We could have had the title varchar and specified a number for it, but I just let it as text. Now that's it for this method. So even if we created the database for the first time, the onCreate would not work another time. It will just return the open database. So now let's implement the other methods. However, let me just have comma here, and no, not here. Okay, it has to be here, yeah. And let's specify the version with the version we have. So whenever you update your database, you can change the version and it will understand that it is an updated version of the database. Okay, now let's create the other methods inside this class. The first one we will create it is add a node, so static future, and add node will return integer. So let's say add node, which will take a node, and let's say node, and this is also async. So inside here, let me just import the node. Yeah, so first thing, let's say final db is equal to await get db, and then we will say return await db.insert. Insert, what is the table that we want to insert to? The table is node, so we'll just copy paste it, and then we have the values. What values you want to insert? We want to insert the node, but not just the node, not to JSON. So yeah, so that's why we created the toJSON method, and that's why we created the from JSON, since we will use it in the database. Okay, and we can have an extra parameter here in case the string or the details or the text had escaping characters or had any other characters. We can add conflicting algorithms, and we can say conflicting algorithms dot replace, and that would be a good option for that. Now let's continue. Let's create another method. Let's say static future, and this would actually also return an int because it's update node, and it will also take node, and it's also async. And yeah, so first thing, as always, we will have the final db equal await get db, and then we will also return db or await db.update, which table we want the update. We want to update the node, the values that we want to send. It's the node.toJSON. And here we can have where. So the where, it's actually a string, so we could say ID equal to question mark. We wouldn't say node.id inside of here. On the other hand, we will have where args, and this is a list in case the where has many options. So we would just say node.id. And that's it. We can also have conflicting algorithms and say conflicting algorithms dot replace. Here is it. And that's it. Let me just format the file a little bit. Yeah. And that's it for the update. And we have only 2 more methods to cover, which are the delete one. The delete one is basically it looks like the update, so I will just copy paste it. Let's say delete node. However, here we would just say delete, and without this one, without this one. And that's it for the delete. We will delete the node where id equal node.id. And finally, we have a special method which will return all the nodes that we have created so far. So we will have static future, and this would return a list of nodes, and it might be nullable. So let's have a question mark here, and let's say get all node. Since the first time we open the app, it should be nullable, so that's why we had it as nullable. Okay, so first of all, let's say final db is equal await get db, and then here we would not return immediately. We would say final list of map, and this map is string dynamic as any other map, and let's call it maps is equal to db or await db dot query, and we'll just say node the table. So give me whatever you have in this node table, and then we will just check if maps dot is not empty, or let's here check is empty, and let's say return null. And below it, if this code doesn't exist, if we didn't return empty, that means we have maps, so we have result in the node table. So simply we would just say return list dot generate, and the length we want to is maps dot length, and for each index we would return node dot from JSON maps for this index, and that's it. So that's it for this file, the database helper, and I hope it's clear to you. Now let's move on to the UI. First, let's create a node widget, and I'm not gonna go over the UI, so I've already created this file, so I will just paste it here. And let's go to the node screen. I will edit this one. So inside here, let's say final node. However, this might be nullable, and it might be nullable because if we want to add one, we will show this screen, and if we want to update one, we will also show this screen. So let's have it as that. Now inside here, let's here check if node is not empty and it's not null. Let's say title controller dot text is equal to the node dot text dot title, sorry, yeah, and let's say description controller dot text is equal to node dot description, and let's have a question mark here, or let's have first unwrapping here because we know it's not null now. Okay, now the text is add a node, and we want to show a different text if the node is not null, or otherwise we will keep it as node. So first of all, let's just remove the const, and then here we will just say node equal null. So keep it as add a node. Otherwise, if it's not, let's have edit node. Okay. what are you thinking about will remain the same, title will remain the same, note will remain the same. Let's go to the save, I think here, yep. Okay, so we'll just check the same. If not is equal to null, yeah, so keep it to save. Otherwise, let's have it here, edit or modify, and just remove the const. So okay, and let's have the const here. Now, whenever we click in the save or the edit button, first we are extracting the title, then we are extracting the description, and if the title or the description is empty, one of them is empty, we are returning, so no code will be executed after that. Now here we have to save or update the model. Now first of all, since we have the title and the new description, even if it's insert or update, let's create a new model for the node, and let's say final node, and let's call it model is equal to node. And for the title, we already have it. For the description, okay, for the description we also have it. And now for the ID, so if it's modify, if it's edit, we have to know the ID, so we will just say node.id, and we don't know for sure if we have it, so it might be null. That's why I kept the ID as nullable. Now we will check on the node if node equal null, which means we have to insert this node. So we would say await, because I've already had an async here, await database helper dot add node and the model we've created. Otherwise, else, if it's not null, we will just say await database helper dot update node, and we will send the model as well. We will not send the node we have before, because we changed the title and we changed the description, and the ID remains the same. And that's it for this screen. Alright, now moving on to the notes screen, where the body says nothing to show now. Let's remove that, and I will actually paste it, then I will explain it. Let me just add all of these imports and the node widget. Okay, get all node. Okay, it should be with an S. Yep, and node widget. Okay, no errors now. Alright, now the first thing I created, I had a future builder instead of a text, and this future builder might have a list of nodes, or they might be nullable. So in the future, we called the database helper.getAllNodes, the method we created, and then we checked on the connection state. If it's waiting, we showed a circular progress indicator. If it has an error, we showed the center with the text with the error. And if it has data, and it might have data, but this data might be empty because it's a list. So I checked after if it has data, if a snapshot.data different from null, because it might be null or it might be an empty list. Okay, so we are returning a list view.builder, and for each builder we are returning the node widget, and this node takes a node, one out of the list, so snapshot.data for this index. Now on the async, on tab, whenever we click on this node, we will have navigation.push, we will push to the new screen, and we will send the node. So that's how we update it. And on long press, we can delete it. So whenever we long press this node, we will have another dialog saying, are you sure you want to delete this node? I didn't show you in the in the preview of the app before, but we will test it now. So we will just, on the yes, we will delete it. We have delete node, we send the node, and we said navigation.pop, then set the state to remove it. Otherwise, we will just say navigation.pop. So now let's run the app and see how it looks. Alright, I've got the same data I showed you before, and that's why I'm running it on the same mobile phone, and we didn't erase the database or anything. So let me show you the delete. when we long press any node, it will appear. Are you sure you want to delete this node? Whenever we say yes, it will remove it. So let's delete this as well. And let's try to create a new node. Let's say node, and here details, save, and it does appear and it does work. Let's update this node. Let's say next time don't forget showing all features in the preview. Alright, and let's edit it, and it works successfully. So that was all. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, comment, like the video. And I kinda noticed that I had a small mistake here. It should be an E, so let's update it as well. Okay, so I will see you in the next video.